Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the upper tier, and this is Thursday Tier Talk. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, the Dazzler himself. How are we, Darren?
Thursday Tier Talk. I thought it was like Thursday Tit Talk or something at that stage. I was like, this sounds good. I might even tune into this.
You might get
But then
excited about it. Yeah.
then I just realised it was us two ages, and sure, fuck it, it's grand.
Yeah. Apologies for being at the later time of it's 9:22 now, but normally we're 9 o'clock. But we were life's little things get in the way, don't they? Sometimes, but we're here. We've got plenty to discuss, plenty to chat about. So it should be a lot of fun. But let's get started. Morris in the comments.
Good
As
evening,
always, how are we, Morris?
Morris. How you doing, pal?
Cheap Heat Production Podcast. Check it out. Doing some great interviews over there. If you're a wrestling fan, you had Cherry on this week, who you'll remember from Juice and Domino, no less.
Juice and Domino, remember them, yeah?
Juice and Domino.
She used to come in the skates now, remember?
She was on the roller skates, absolutely.
She wasn't a bad looking doll as well.
He's not messing about, is he? Here for the bowley bashing. It's coming up, Morris. Don't worry, it's coming up.
We'll be doing here, that Morris. Don't you worry.
As Irish people, we're well used to this north-south divide, so we'll be going into it hard. Don't worry, not a bother. Let's kick it off anyway. Champions League results. What was you thinking on them? Liverpool 2, Ajax 1. Liverpool obviously made tough work of what should have been a much easier job with the amount of chances he created, but still a bit blunt up front, but got the job done. Matip last minute.
It's pretty much exactly what I expected, if I'm honest. Like, it's what I called in the preview, and it's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a tough night at the office. I thought you'd have chances, but I thought, with the ways they're playing at the minute, there's a little lack of confidence and stuff like that. But again, I thought with it being at Anfield, you'll do enough to get over the line, and that's kind of how it was,
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the shock of the Premier League rounds, obviously, I mean, Chelsea getting the draw with Salzburg, or Salzburg getting the draw with Chelsea. I'm sure Potter would have wanted to get off to a better start. Certainly Chelsea were, in my eyes, looking at it, they created a lot more and with a better team, but just again, couldn't get the job done. But City beating Dortmund 2-1. Haaland with that goal, sensational. Outside of the foot with Cancelo, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a really well taken goal, wasn't it? And it's like, you kind of saw them after about 60, 65 minutes, they started to put the foot in the accelerator a little bit more than they were before that. And they just started to go through the gears and then start picking them off. And you just thought, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. Now, obviously, the first goal was a very unlikely source in John Stones. I thought the keeper was very poor for it. But I think after they got the draw, they got it back to level. There was only ever going to be one winner, and then it wasn't a surprise to see the boy Haaland pop up. I hear people talk about this, he only had 6 touches in the game, but one of them scored a winning goal, so really what's it matter?
What a touch. And what a touch. Have you ever seen a guy his size to be so athletic?
I think most of us would be happy enough to be able to get our bodies in that position, never mind that else. Like, I need a trampoline and a half a box of Panadol to try and get into that position.
This guy's foot was above the defender behind the defender in front of him, who I presume was over 6 foot. This guy's a monster.
He was 6 foot anyway, the boy Slaughterbeck, wasn't he?
Absolutely, and his foot was over his head putting that ball in. Probably would have been easier to head it, really, when you think about it. Why not make it difficult on yourself? But it looks sensational.
He just wanted to look unreal, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think for the stone. Go on, yeah.
It's not the first time I've seen him do it either, by the way.
No, absolutely.
I've seen him do it. Like, he seems to enjoy this kind of a finish, which is the real scary thing. I've seen him do this for Dortmund as well, and you're looking going, what is this guy doing?
He actually didn't he have a chance? Didn't he have the chance to do that? I think in the Community Shield, didn't he? And
against
it didn't go right from. He went up and just missed the ball. Yeah, he tried to do it.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's obviously something that he favours. I think for the Stones one, I think the keeper was caught off guard. I think he was expecting a cross, and the next thing, this missile came in from nowhere and hit the back of the net. But I think you're right. His arms, we mentioned it today when we were talking. His arms were just flapping all over the place. Very un-goalkeeping.
Like this, and it was like the ball went through the middle of his hands, and you were just like, "What is that, man? You're playing the Champions League. Like, it's Wednesday night. You've got to be so much better than that. Like, you really,
it's
really
Dortmund,
do,
and it's Dortmund,
and it's Dortmund.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have got a history of unbelievable goalkeepers, though, Dortmund. Like
Yeah.
for all because don't forget, like Dortmund have had some amazing players over the years. You know, attacking players, great midfielders and stuff like that, all the way back, great defenders and stuff. They haven't got a history of having unbelievable goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, it's always somewhere that's not neglected, but somewhere maybe they don't invest as much as they do in other areas of the pitch, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if you're saying, did you see Haaland's post-match interview with the reporter? Where the reporter was kind of go in on him saying he was kind of trying to give the impression that he didn't have much of an effect on the game and all this kind of stuff. And Haaland turned around and John Stones was just looking at him with fear beside him because the size. And John Stones ain't the small guy either, but Haaland makes him look tiny.
Absolutely not.
And Haaland turns around to the reporter and he goes, I scored, didn't I, the winner? And the
Yeah.
reporter just went quiet. And John Stones kind of like nearly took a step to the side, thinking this was going to kick off. You know what I mean? But not taking any prisoners. I suppose the shock was really Sporting versus Tottenham, wasn't it? Sporting winning 2-0.
Huge shock.
Yeah.
Now, we did speak about it beforehand, and we thought the game might be tight. I actually went for the draw in the preview. And I mean, up until about 90 minutes, I had it nail on the head. Two very, very late goals, 91 and 93. I'd say Antonio Conte was absolutely livid afterwards. I read a few comments that he went into the dressing room and rinsed the boys out good and proper. And that doesn't shock me, if I'm honest. I just think, you know, when you're Spurs, and it wasn't their best game of football ever, let's be honest, but you've got to be able to grind out a result with the players you have on the pitch in comparison to what the other team has on the pitch. You know, you've got to do enough to get something out of it, and they just didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, Morris in the comments, not that shocking. Spurs are bad away in Europe. Yeah, but I don't know. They did. I mean, they created a couple of chances and they had a couple of shots from distance and stuff like that. But you kind of felt they were very unspurs, like, really. You know what I mean? It's like they'd abandoned what they knew, and they were trying something different. Hallberg was shooting from distance and stuff like that instead of playing guys in, and sort of, you know, when it gets to that stage where stuff isn't working for you and link-up play isn't working for you, and all of a sudden you go into business for yourself. We've seen it before with Trent and stuff like that as well, shooting from distance when there's no need and all that kind of thing.
No need for it.
Absolutely. So that's Champions League. Europa League. You boys, we were going to do kind of like a watch along for the second half, but we actually forgot. We forgot that it was the early game. Yeah, solid enough win for United. I mean, they were 2-0 up at half time. I presume the second half they went out just to put in a bit of a performance and stuff like that. They know there's game. Well, there should have been games coming up, but there isn't.
Yeah, I think tonight suited us, to be honest with you. No game at the weekend, which is obviously plays into our hands a little bit. Chance to leave a couple of lads behind. Obviously, Rashford didn't make the trip, and neither did Martial. I think we need to get the two boys fit again. Ronaldo was very, very, you know, he played on the periphery of the game for long parts. He got his goal, which is basically all he wants from the penalty spot, albeit. But I thought the first goal was a very well worked goal. It was a great move, finished off by Sancho, who's starting to show a bit of sign of life. And again, I think the most important thing for us was another clean sheet. I love watching United play when we only get to see Harry Maguire in the 89th minute. It's terrific. It really makes my day.
Well, you can hold that thought, because we are in our news section. We're going to be talking about an article that one Paul McGrath put together at the weekend, which was very questionable of the people that you constantly question. But I'll save that one for you. But it's a good one on it. No, you're in. I'd say you're in full agreement with him. I'd say 2/3 of agreement with him. I wouldn't say fully in agreement, but I'd say 2/3. So we'll hold it there. And I picked out a lovely picture of McGrath as well in the classic United jersey. Morris saying Malacia looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good, man. I suppose, you know, we've obviously struggled in the left back spot. Shaw's been redundant now for a couple of years. He had a really, really good season, and then he went off the boil. Tellez didn't seem to get things up and running the way we thought he would. You know, he was obviously a big time player at Porto, but didn't kind of transfer it into the league. The boy Malacia already looks, you know, head and shoulders above the two lads. His desire, his heart, his work rate, his positional sense, his tackling. You know, if I'm going to be overly critical, I'd say he needs to do a little bit in the final third. But if he keeps putting in performances the way he is, United fans will absolutely love him. Absolutely love him.
Just to let people know, later on in the show, we're going to be talking about this All-Stars thing with Todd Bowley, but we're also going to be putting together our North and South 11s. So if anyone wants to drop their North and South 11s into the chat there, we can have a chat about that. We're also going to be doing Beat the Bookie. So if you have any picks for the weekend, I know it's a kind of diluted fixture list, but if you have any picks for the weekend, hit them in there as well and let us know what you're thinking of putting your hard-earned money on. West Ham running out good winners, 3-1 I think it was, coming from behind. I think it finished 3-1 anyway. I didn't get the final result.
Still on. It's still on.
Okay, it's still going on.
It is 3-1 though, so
3-1.
they're moving in the right direction. I think they got
Absolutely.
a relatively soft penalty early on. Sorry, to make it 1-1. It went 1-0 down. I think they got a soft penalty, but it's 3-1, and they're coasting to another win in
away
in Europa.
Yeah, good stuff. And then we'll round it out with Shamrock Rovers, because obviously Arsenal's game was called off.
They were coasting 3-1.
It's now 3-2. It's now 4.
It's now 3-2. Silkeborg have just got one back. I'll tell you now. I'm just waiting on it.
How long is left?
15 minutes plus added time.
Oh, squeaky bum time.
So there'll be a little bit of squeaky bum time going in here now.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
A bit closer to home, our friends Shamrock Rovers were away to Ghent. They lost 3-0, so they've gone from sort of hero to zero within a week. Really, we were bigging them up last week on the show and stuff like that. So,
got to be honest though, the Ghent team are the top seeds in that group, and they're a solid outfit. You know, they play in Europe pretty much every season, be it the Champions League, the Europa, or the Conference. So they've got an awful lot of experience under their belt, and it's probably just a little more than Rovers have in them at the minute, you know. But fair play to them Rovers as well, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk then about the Premier League fixtures coming up. We've an interesting one because they've spread it out over the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so we're a little bit spoilt. Just before we get off the goals, I want to have a big shout out to Clark, the boy off Sunderland. I don't know if and the whole Sunderland team last night. I don't know if you seen that third goal last night.
I didn't see it. I saw he scored. Yeah.
It's as good a team goal as you'll have ever seen. Literally everyone had a touch and he finished it off. If you get a chance, check it out later. But I just wanted to give him a shout out.
The boy Jack Clark originally came from Leeds. He signed for Spurs. He was a Spurs player. Things didn't go that well at Spurs, and I think Spurs have sold him to Sunderland. I'm not 100% sure on that. They may have only loaned him, but if Clark hasn't gone to Sunderland on a permanent deal, he's actually a Spurs player. So we'll have a little route with that later on maybe and see where we are. But I've seen him a couple of times. He's a really, really nice player. Dribbles really well with the ball at his feet. Beautiful balance, can pick out a cross, can finish. He's a nice footballer, the kid, Jack Clark.
Yeah, spot on there, Morris. Rovers with their home form, that's what they'll be relying on. Yeah, but if you look at it later, Darren, it's as good a team goal as you see. The ball was worked out from defence up the right hand side and stuff like that, and then sent into him and stuff like that. But I think there was around 10 passes in the build up. Unbroken up and stuff like that. It was a great team goal. Check it out later when you get a chance. I just said I'd give it a shout because I don't think we give these guys enough shout and stuff like that, you know. Right, so Friday, 8 o'clock, we've got 2 games. Aston Villa versus Southampton and Nottingham Forest versus Fulham.
Aston Villa versus Southampton. Again, you look at a game like this, it's got to be a game where Stevie's looking to alleviate some of that pressure, isn't he? You know, he's obviously had a real tough time of it. I think, again, with some of the time off he's had, he'd be working really, really hard with the boys on that system, on making sure they can be a little more compact, not give away as many chances at the back. And I think Villa will create chances. They've good footballers. They've got Ings, they got Watkins, they got the boy Bailey, they got Coutinho, they've got Buendia. You know, they've lots and lots of good players. But they need to start keeping clean sheets so they can win football matches. This is the big problem for them, you know. Southampton won't roll over either. Yeah, I'd say you're not far off at Morris. Southampton, we know, won't roll it over, and we know under the governor they'll always be well drilled. The big Southampton have the other problem to Villa. They're not too bad at the back. They can maintain possession of the ball. They move the ball around very nicely. They just can't put the ball away at times, Southampton, and that's a real Achilles heel for them. Some sort of a hybrid between the two teams, I think he'd be doing all right. Southampton's defenders against Villa's attackers. And,
some sort of a north-south team,
almost,
as they would say.
I think Villa will just do this, but again, I think it'll be very tight. I'm gonna go for a few goals, and I'm gonna go 3-2 Villa.
Okay, interesting. I'm going for a draw. Because with Southampton not doing much up front and Villa's defence not being what it should be, that might balance out. And I was thinking with Villa doing a little bit up front, but Southampton being so organised, I think it might balance itself out. So I'm going for a draw. Forest versus Fulham.
Forest versus Fulham. Yeah, listen, I think Forest are really going to be looking at themselves at the minute. Obviously had a great chance to pick up that win against Bournemouth a couple of weeks back, went 2-0 up and lost the game 4-2, I think it was in the end. That's going to be on their minds. They probably wouldn't have wanted this amount of time off. I'd say they wanted to get back on the horse straight away and try and get over the line. But I'd say Cooper's going to have these well drilled. Again, he's got all the players in the door now. He's also brought in Serge Aurier since the last day. He'll probably play back up to Neco Williams. He's got the boy Renan Lodi on the other side. I think now we might see the development of what Cooper's going to play. Because, until we went on this sabbatical for the Queen and stuff like that, we haven't seen anything really of the boy Emmanuel Dennis or somebody else. Another player there at Forest we haven't seen much of. So I think now he'll try and start to get some of these lads in the team and try and really get them to kick on.
Yeah. Our resident referee is in the comments. Babe, station time with Niall and Dazzler. Carlsberg don't do Thursday nights on the way home from work, but if they did, well, hey.
Thanks, Margie.
Remember Babe Station years ago? That was mad, wasn't it?
Have you not got any more now?
I don't go that far down the menu anymore. I don't feel I need it. Morris is in the comments. His South team: Mason, Mount, and Mount. Would you say Morris is a big fan of Mason Mount now? Would you? Or
I think he might be.
Jesus, he even has him in goals.
Do you think there's many of those Arsenal players getting into a South team?
I tell you, you'll be interesting to see. I'd say they would. I'll preface it by saying there's a couple in my one as far as I know, and there's a couple in the boys' ones who sent in as well from the WhatsApp group. So it should be interesting debate. But we shall see. Let's move into Saturday. We have three fixtures.
I've 2 in my 11.
Yeah, I think I've two. I don't think we'll be that much different either. I think it's fairly obvious the two as well.
I've a couple of players who will surprise you.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. I'm the same. Yeah. And we will also be talking as well about that England squad announced today. That has to have a little bit of discussion.
Shocking. Absolutely top drawer, shocking shite altogether. Gareth Southgate, hang your head in shame.
If there was ever a Gareth Southgate squad, 12 defenders, 5 midfielders, and you're there going in a throwaway tournament and a bit of prep for a World Cup. My God, and have so much talent and 12 defenders and 5 midfielders. Either he's made up his mind who he's bringing and he doesn't care, and he hasn't made up his mind at the back.
Well, what the problem is? The problem is he's going to play a 5. So that's why he's got to bring that many defenders. And some of the boys can play in a dual position where they play in the centre-back or they'll push forward and play in that defensive midfield role,
I'm not giving him that much credit.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
He ain't getting that much credit off me.
How any England manager has watched Man United this year and thought, I need to include Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw.
And the United players he's left out. The United players he's left out.
I don't even mind the 2 boys he's left out because they're only coming back into form. Now listen, they're certainly better than they were last year, but we haven't seen them, a little bit of arrogance, a little bit of confidence from them yet. They're taking chances, but they're still not, firing on all cylinders. I don't mind them leaving them out and saying to the lads, I want a little bit more from them. But to let the two boys in is absolutely disgraceful. Like, disgraceful.
Our resident
Really.
referee is on. Trapattoni picked better squads than that,
Yeah.
and that's saying something.
Trapping his
Absolutely,
pony. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's say Brighton versus Crystal Palace is postponed on Saturday, as we know. So we've got three
That's
fixtures. Your early one is Wolves versus Man City on BT. Your afternoon one, which is Newcastle versus Bournemouth. And our half five is Spurs versus Leicester on Sky Sports. So a nice little festival of football to tie us over anyway, even with the disappointment of matches getting called off. Let's start.
Absolutely.
Wolves versus Man City.
Yeah, listen. Again, teams that play in the Champions League and in the Europa never find it very easy when they return to the Premier League at the weekend. City obviously play Wednesday night, their first game out on Saturday morning. It'll be tough. Wolves will make it very, very tough. They've had a bit of time off. Again, I think they'll have a lot of training on their belt. They'll have a better idea how they're going to try and go about getting these goals. Again, so far this season, they've been relatively tight at the back. I think the boy Nathan Collins has been phenomenal for them. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal. I think Jose Sa has been excellent as well. I think there's a couple of players. The new boy, Nunez, again, looks a footballer. So there's lots of good stuff going on at Wolves. Their biggest problem is they can't put the ball in the back of the net. Now, they've brought in one, Diego Costa, to try and do that. I'm not sure whether I'll be looking for odds on a goal from Diego at the weekend, but I might have a little peep what it'll be for a red.
Yeah, especially up against the likes of Diaz
up
and all,
against
he'll be up
absolutely.
against him. Yeah, that's
Wouldn't
a great shout, actually.
I think City will do it, but I think they'll make hard work of it. And we might see, a 2-1 City like it was on Wednesday night.
Yeah, Morris is back. I think he's given some lads a final chance. I wouldn't read too much into that squad. I think that's some of it, Morris, as well, yeah. But
I don't know. I think I'd have had Mrs. Maguire in ahead of fucking Harry, like.
I think if it's, what are they playing over this? Is it 2 matches or 1? 2?
2.
Must be 2 games, is it? Well, if they're playing 2 games, this is the last 2 games in preparation for the World Cup. At this stage, you should really know your squad. I know if you have a few injuries and stuff like that, it's different, but you should really know your 22 at least at this stage, shouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I would have thought. Newcastle versus Bournemouth. Nothing but a Newcastle win here.
Nothing but a Newcastle win here. Again, I think we'll see the boy Alexander Isak getting the score sheet here. I think Newcastle will be trying to get him firing on all cylinders. I'd hope to see the return of Bruno Guimaraes. He's been out for a couple of weeks there at Newcastle, and I think they'd love to see him back, and possibly even Alan St. Maximin, because I know he took an injury there a couple of weeks ago, and I think they weren't 100% sure how long it'd be. But he'll be a big loss to Newcastle. But I only see this going one way. I see this being Newcastle, and I think I'll go 3-1.
Yeah, good show. And I just want to preface this by saying, when we get into Beat the Bookie and we get into talking about the North-South teams, I haven't shown anything to Darren, but Darren is talking my talk already here with these names.
Oh, really?
It's all good. Yeah, absolutely. The half 5, Spurs versus Leicester. Spurs will want to put on a performance after Champions League, won't they?
Spurs will, but, I think Leicester are really, really under pressure at the minute. I think he'll probably, again, have had time to get the lads through their paces. I think they'll be much better drilled. I think we'll see a lot of returns. We'll see Vardy, we'll see Maddison, we'll see Tielemans, we'll see him have 2 centre-backs in the centre-back slots. Obviously, the new boy, I think it's Pace they got in from Rennes, and probably Johnny Evans, a couple of full-backs, and they'll try and keep it very tight, but they'll cause problems for Tottenham. I'm going to go a draw. I think Spurs are a little bit off it at the minute. And I don't think they find it very, very easy to turn it on. I'm going to go 2-2 on this one.
Interesting. Spurs at home as well. That's a big show. Nice one. That's a good one. I wasn't expecting that from you now. But yeah, let's get into Sunday. Both games on Sky Sports, 12 o'clock and 2:15. Obviously, Chelsea, Liverpool and Man United Leeds have been postponed. So we've got Brentford versus Arsenal and Everton versus West Ham. Morris, give us your prediction for Brentford versus Arsenal in the chat if you get a chance there as well.
I'm really looking forward to this, because obviously Brentford did them up like an absolute kipper in the opening night last year at that community stadium, really, really did. Got them out the blocks and started that run of those 3 defeats in a row which, really created some waves. Obviously, last year being bottom of the table after 3. I think Brentford will come and really, really have a pop off Arsenal. The only problem I think with that is it might suit Arsenal that there's a little bit more space, but I think we could see quite a few goals here.
Morris is going for a 1-1.
I think there's way more goals than 1-1 in it, if I'm honest, because I think the likes of Tony and Buemo, Jesus, Odegaard, I think there's a lot. I think there's lots of goals here. I'm gonna wait. Are you ready for this?
Go on.
I'm going Brentford.
4-3.
No, 3-3, like the draw with Liverpool last year.
3-3.
I'm going 3-3. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think Tony as well be boy-out after being called up to the England squad as well.
Absolutely, and he will
delighted as well.
He'll love to try and knock the bollocks out of that lad Gabriel.
Yeah.
Love it.
There's not often I agree with Southgate on some of his picks or any of his picks, but that one is spot on.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy that he got called up as well. So that's all our fixtures. So let's get into our news. We didn't
do the afternoon game.
Oh, sorry, Everton versus West Ham. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Again, West Ham must be away from home tonight, and then they're away from home on Sunday as well. Everton really, again, need to start putting their best foot forward. I think we could see a turn-up here. I think we could see a turn-up for the Bucks. I think Everton might nick this 1-0.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to agree with that. I'm going to go West Ham 3-1. But you'd expect nothing less from me, would you? Even if I get it wrong.
No point being the pantomime villain unless you play the game.
I'll be letting the side down unless I predicted anything else, wouldn't I? The only thing I'd be concerned about them, obviously Pickford's out, and he tends to be very important to them. Yeah,
the boy Begovic is playing. I don't think he'll be. I don't think he'll be an issue. He's been solid at times. I wouldn't see it as a huge problem. I do like the boy Pickford. I think he, at times he looks unbelievably, really, really does. But then there's other times I just want to smack him in the head. It's just his lack of concentration and, all the shithousery that he goes on with. I think you've got to be a certain type of player to get away with that, and he's just not that type of player. I think he should just shut his mouth and play football, because when he does, he's not a bad player.
Yeah, you need to have a certain stature to get away with that.
Absolutely,
certain look. You need to look like Diego Costa.
Yeah, and he hasn't got a beard. His hair's all slicked back. He's like, fucking hell, man. What are you?
Yeah. You need to look like that live on the street rough, don't you? To kind of get.
Plus, he has those little fucking T-Rex arms going on. You're like, pal, will you just fucking stop it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
let's get into the news before we get into our North-South All-Star game. And we have a discussion about that and then deliver them. Let's talk about this guy first of all. We'll run through these pretty quick. Gavi signed a new long-term deal with Barcelona the other day with a 1 billion, I think it was.
How much was that?
Clause.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. Remember when we used to talk in football about hundreds of thousands, and then we started talking about millions, and now we start talking about tens of millions, and now we're talking about hundreds of millions, and now we're talking about $1 billion.
Well, you're talking about $1 billion, but he never goes for $1 billion. That's just
no, but it's I'm sort of thinking it was kind of nearly a move by Barcelona to kind of give the market another 2 fingers on the way out, kind of thing, wasn't it? It was kind of
listen. There's no point, being a cunt unless you can prove it. And Barca are just going on to prove it every day of the week at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the kind of indirect shithousery that they come out with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Mark Hogan on here. He'll be getting banned. Please tell me Richarlison is in your South team, Niall. Do you know something? I was going to put him in my team, but then after last night, he was woeful. Not a chance, Mark. Not a chance.
He wasn't the only one. That's all I'll say.
No, he wasn't the only one, but it was nice for me to pick him out. Let's talk about this lad then. Van Dijk was interviewed after the match against them. Who are we playing again the other night? Ajax, of course. The match against Ajax. He was interviewed after that game, and he had a little bit of go off ex-footballer pundits who were going in on them. And he made the point that there's no world-class player out there that hasn't experienced a dip in form. And he wasn't using that as an excuse. He said that the performance against Napoli was unacceptable. He said they didn't need to be told by anyone because they knew it themselves. And he wasn't kind of happy now. No one's above criticism, especially if you watch this show.
No, but listen, there's a frustration, and the problem's not necessarily stemming from any one particular pundit, but it's definitely it's too many cooks spoil the broth type thing, because you listen to the lads on BT, then you've a set of lads on Sky, then you've a set of lads on ESPN, and you've a set of lads somewhere else. He's probably looking around going, you lads couldn't lace your boots, and yous are all jumping on the bandwagon talking about us who won a Champions League, a league, FA Cup, World Club Cup, Carabao Cup, everything. And it does grate in you a little bit, I'd imagine. Now, as you say, there's lots of fat lads who like to talk about football as well, and everyone likes to have an opinion on it. It doesn't mean we're right, but I think Virgil should just I would too. But I think Virgil should just stick to doing what he does best, because I've got to be honest, Virgil's been way off where he needs to be this season for Liverpool. Absolutely way off.
Yeah. He was very clear in kind of saying that he knew even himself in his own performance, stuff like that. I think what happens is, if you've been so used to being praised for the last 5 years about how great you are and that you're the best central defender on the planet and stuff like that, it probably sticks in your craw after a while if you've started the season the way we have. But I think the criticism is fair.
It's definitely
it hasn't been.
It's definitely
100%.
100%.
Lads that get paid millions to kick a ball are open for criticism.
Absolutely, Morris. Yeah, 100%.
If I was getting paid their money, I wouldn't be too upset about what people say.
Not
to me.
At all.
Let's talk about this man. This is one you prefaced it earlier. I picked out a real good picture for you. Young as anything there, with a beautiful moustache and that classic United jersey. Has the El Ronnie on and wears it like a champ. He wrote a little article in the Independent there, I think on Sunday, and he mentioned that United still have to ship out their 3 flops, and he identified the 3 flops. 2 of them I'm sure you'd be happy about, Maguire and Ronaldo. The third one I thought was a little bit harsh, Lindelof. What you thinking? You probably didn't get to read the article, but just give us a kind of a feeling of.
Yeah, I didn't read it, and to be honest with you, like if we need to ship out 3 flops, you look no further than Ronaldo, Maguire for a start. But I'd probably throw Luke Shaw out of the building before I throw Victor out. Victor's never really let the side down massively. He may not be what people would describe as a United player, but he always goes out and gives it his utmost. There's a certain level of expectation from a player, and I think Lindelof gets much closer to it than Shaw does week to week. Plus, I've got to be honest, I feel like at times we don't get to see the best version of Victor Lindelof. Every time I watch Sweden, the guy is unbelievable, and I'm kind of thinking we need to see that Victor Lindelof week to week at United. He's had some good games. He's had some games where he wasn't as good as he should have been, but he's certainly not. He certainly shouldn't be a target for anything like that. If I'm honest.
Yeah, I would have thought the same. He was the one I was shocked at. The other 2 I wasn't really, because I mean, we all know the type of player McGrath was, and we know he wouldn't tolerate either of those 2 boys. But Lindelof, I thought was a harsh one, because he's always one that's kind of on the fringes. And we do have to take into account he's gone through 3 years of being coached by Ollie and stuff like that and all. Plus he's been partnering Maguire in there and covering for him and stuff like that.
His biggest problem has been he's had to partner Maguire. Anybody partnering Maguire is going to look poor. At stages last season, lads were screaming, "Where's the Varane we bought from Madrid?"
Yeah.
Now already this season, people have said, "God, Varane's looked very good." It's not that he's looked very good. It's because he's been able to do his own job. He's been able to look after his part of the game, not having to look after his part and the guy beside him, because he just wasn't up to scratch. And that's what's happened too often when Maguire's played.
Yeah. And I think a couple of times last season, if I'm right, Lindelof played with Boy and he looked okay. As a partnership, it looked all right when both boys were fit. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the proof was in that.
I think Victor's a tough one, I have to say, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've got one final one for you. Thierry Henry this week. This is a good one for Morris. He was reflecting on the Queen's passing, and he was saying the Arsenal team had to go and have afternoon tea with her one time, and he was tasked with introducing the team.
Right.
And he said he was so nervous. He says when he got there, he was so nervous. It felt like, like a cup final or a big game or whatever it was. He was that nervous. You know what I mean? When you think about the games this man's played in and stuff like that, to
Yeah.
be that nervous, that he forgot the players' names as he was going along, introducing them. So he thought it was a real cool story. He says, he was introducing, I think it was one of the French players, can't remember his name, but he said he totally forgot his name. His mind went blank. He was so nervous. And I thought it was a great story to carry on and stuff like that and all,
Absolutely.
A fun one. Right, let's get into beat the. I think we'll start with beat the bookie.
Beat the pants off Paddy Power.
Yeah.
Pew, pew.
Beat the pants off any of them.
Any of them.
And I'll start with, as always, our. I'll just get rid of
our resident referee.
Yeah,
Marky Hogan.
And in his wisdom this week, he must have been watching last week.
He named what teams the players are on.
He did, yeah, he did indeed.
Go back,
right, so
giving
let's get into his bets. So we'll start off with his anytime goal scorer. He's picked out 3. He's picked out Saka for Arsenal, who hasn't been on a great run of form in terms of goal scoring and stuff like that. A boy that you called out earlier, Alexander Isak, good shout. Yeah. And he went with his old stalwart from West Ham, Mikel Antonio. He generally always has Mikel Antonio or Alan Saint-Maximin in there, doesn't he? Normally, they're one of his sort of go-tos.
Some of his go-tos, yeah. What's that? Yeah. That's got to be 30s, has it?
18-1. Not great. Not great now.
Saka, Antonio, and
Isaac. 18-1, yeah, sharp pricing.
He's short, isn't it? A little bit short.
He threw me an L curveball here because there's no United game. He did a bet builder for Millwall versus Blackpool, no less. I don't know. You get down that level, I didn't even know.
Right, so he's going result Blackpool.
No, he's gone with an anytime goal scorer and he's gone with a correct score. And I'll preface it by saying it's no, definitely not. He's a Blackpool supporter. That would have been
he's gone 2-1 Blackpool, isn't he?
He's gone 2-1 Blackpool. So who do you think he's gone with for the anytime goal scorer?
I've no idea. Go on, hit me.
Jerry Yates. It's 26-1.
You know, I say Yates' first name every single week, and this week I didn't say anyone. It was fucking Jerry Yates.
That's the one he picked, yeah. That's it, yeah. So here's the one he's gone with his anytime goal scorer again for the championship.
Right.
So he's gone with Birmingham versus Coventry. So he's gone with, as far as I know, it's Birmingham.
He's gone with Birmingham. It's Scott Hogan.
It is.
Yeah, got a hat-trick last night.
Yeah, and then he's gone with QPR versus Stoke.
Right. And he's gone Stoke, I imagine, has he?
It is.
And he's gone with It
should be very obvious. This one should be obvious.
Yeah, he's gone with the
boy. Irish people, it should be obvious.
The boy Liam Delap.
Correct. And then he's gone with Norwich versus West Brom. So he's picked the boy from Norwich. A guy that we talk up and have a lot of time for, especially last season. Just to give you a hint.
Let's go for the boy. Todd Cantwell.
No. Nearly. You hit 2 treble 20s there. You're just outside the wire on that one.
Who we got?
Guy we spoke about a lot last year.
Adam Ida?
No.
No. He's
Joshua Sargent.
Good player, that kid. Like him a lot.
Yeah. So that gives you 46-1 on that one. That's not a bad one.
That's a nice bet.
Good.
That's not a lovely bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's that was Marky's picks.
What have you got for us, Niall?
Right. I went with a Friday night draw, and I went with a draw double. So Aston Villa and Southampton and Forest and Fulham. 2 draws, 10-1. Just to kick the weekend off to a nice little start. As I said to you earlier, I couldn't separate Villa and Southampton. Forest at home, Fulham away. Who knows? 10-1 for the draws. I went with an anytime goal scorer, and I went with Ollie Watkins for Aston Villa. I went with Mitrovic for Fulham. I think Mitrovic at this stage is in most people's anytime scorer bets these days.
I think so, yeah.
I went with Alexander Isaac, and I went with Ivan Toney. So
that'll pay a nice price.
56-1.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's not bad, and it's if you think about it, it's in around the guys you spoke about in the preview. Watkins up front, Mitrovic on Fulham, Isaac and Toney. Decent price, not too bad there at all.
And you know what the nice thing is? They're all centre forwards, so they're all going to be inside the width of the posts, and they'll have a good opportunity and a good. They'll all at least have 2 opportunities to score this weekend, and if they play at 50%, you've got your bet up.
Morris said Rovers paid a nice tribute to her again tonight. I presume he's talking about the Queen.
The Queen, yeah, I would imagine.
Long, he's talking about. Hang on 1 second. Now we have one other one here from. He was picking Long and Pookie. No, not quite, Morris, but close. I do have a special for you, Morris, for the Brentford game. Brentford versus Arsenal, and this is not far away from what you're thinking either, Darren. Both teams to score in both halves, 10-1.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
That's tiny enough, isn't it? I seen it there. I copped that the other day. I copped that yesterday as a special.
That is a special, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I did another 6-1 on it because we don't have our own games going on. The weekly upset I put in there, Brentford to beat Arsenal and both teams to score is 6-1.
Tidy as well.
Not too bad.
Tidy as well.
And I've got 2 more for you. Your favourite bet, both teams to score and result. I went
that
with
is my favourite bet.
Man City to beat Wolves.
Yeah.
Tottenham and Aston Villa.
City, Wolves and Tottenham. Or City, Spurs and Tottenham.
City, Tottenham and Villa.
City, Tottenham, City, Spurs and Tottenham. I said City, Spurs and Villa. Yeah, I think that's 30
to 1.
Nothing wrong with that. That's a great bet.
Not bad at all. And I picked out
your big problem there. I think I see. The biggest issue is Wolves getting on the score sheet, but that's a tidy bet otherwise.
I was thinking just with City, they have been shipping a few goals.
They went 1-0 down to Dortmund the other day, so you know you'd have to. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be surprising if our man Diego Costa got one. Sure, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be a shock.
I'm definitely backing him for a red, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and I have one more for you. Sorry.
And that boy is.
Yeah, I have one more for you. The Saturday handicap, all -1s, right? Man City versus Wolves. So Man City. Newcastle versus Bournemouth, -1. And the one that you probably think is a little bit iffy, Spurs versus Leicester, Spurs at home, -1. 9-1 for the treble.
It's not bad.
Yeah, the last one, as you said, you picked, I think, what did you predict in that one? 2-2 or 3-3 or something, was it?
2-2.
2-2,
I picked loads of goals this week, in fairness. I had 3-2 in the Villa game, 3-3 in the Brentford game, 2-2 in the Spurs game. I obviously see a lot of goals in the future.
Don't they do a special bet sometimes up there where it's like
over a certain amount of goals
25 or more goals in all the Premier League kickoffs or whatever it is or something like that. It's always a fun bet to have because as they start scoring, you start tallying them up and stuff.
Yeah. Ping, 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 ping.
Bit of fun, like, and stuff like that. Have you anything on this for us, or?
I've nothing on this tonight. I will do better next week, sir.
Absolutely shocking. Right. Let's get into the main event then. The main event is...
I've got my North photo and I have a couple of shockers for you.
Nice.
I have some shockers.
I'll pull up the boys' ones as well, so I have them here ready to go as well.
I'm going to go first.
The boys are very like you. Now, you can go first, all right. The boys are very like you as well. The boys send it in on WhatsApp as well, and they do it on pad and paper as well, you know what I mean? So you're there going, yeah, so it's good one, yeah.
I'm an old-skill paper and pen kind of going on.
Yeah, no bother. So what I have is, I have the teams that came out basically from the Sky, from their survey that they do. I have my two, You have your two, and then I
Yeah,
have Greg's and I have Ted's as well. So we should have a
excellent.
bit of fun with this. And if anyone wants to drop theirs in the comments, drop them in there. Who you're picking for your North and South teams, if Bowley got his way. First of all, before you give me your team, thoughts on it?
Um, yeah, like I suppose it will be a strange one. You know, obviously it's strange because we haven't done it before, but I'm not totally against the idea. You know, and I think obviously you pick a manager each year to take charge of each side, and you can have Guardiola versus Arteta, and then we can have Potter versus Klopp, and then we can
Yeah,
have Ten Hag versus Conte, and like that'd be a bit of crack.
yeah.
And then you pick a couple of team captains and so on, so on, so on. But like, yeah, I think it'd be all right. Yeah,
But you could also switch it up as well. Like you could have say Pep in there as the manager for the North, and you could have Klopp in there as his assistant or something like that, or Eddie Howe or whatever it is.
I'm
Just a
not.
bit of
I'm not
fun.
too sure. I'm not too sure the
No,
lads
but you
are
know what I
going
mean.
for it.
Just because if it's fun and if it's like I don't know what way they're thinking about it. If it will be charity based or something like that, I'm sure there'll be some connection with charity and stuff like
Possibly,
that. I
yeah,
imagine. The big thing for me is it's I'm not against it. And I had a lot of fun putting the two teams together. To be honest, actually, it
yeah,
was a lot of fun. So I'd say for a manager, it would be a lot of fun. The problem is where do you fit it in? The calendar is absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah. You'd have to be fitting it in the week after the end of the league
yeah,
season.
yeah,
Where the boys finish on a Sunday and you give them a week with their North or South team and you play the following Sunday. And
yeah.
that's just, bit of crack or whatever.
Wouldn't it be great if they ran it kind of like a league and they got rid of that Nations League? And instead of that, we had like these matches coming up where it's North versus South and different managers going in each time picking different squads and stuff like that and all.
Yeah,
That'd be so much more fun.
Morris has hit the nail on the head here. He talked about the football pyramid funding
Yeah,
is the way he addressed it. And obviously that, the money needs to go in at the top so it trickles down to the clubs and stuff like that. And it's a great idea. That grassroots football needs as much money as it can get. There's a lot of
yeah,
good clubs doing stuff in the leagues and stuff, but they could do a few extra quid financially. And I think that's a great idea if it was to go back into the game like that.
yeah. Great show, absolutely.
Super show.
Right then, let's kick it off. Then give us your. Let's start with your North one. Actually, we'll go through all the North ones first, right, and then we'll do the Souths.
Okay. So my goalkeeper is one Allison
Okay,
Alison Becker. I'm a big fan of Allison's, I have to say. A really big fan of his. I think even as Liverpool have dropped off a little bit, I think he's really shown his class because I think he's been outstanding.
yeah.
And I couldn't really.
He's had to be. He's had to be.
He has, but in fairness to him, like he's done the job.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think his tops are really, really do. I think he was a great addition to Liverpool. I'll be absolutely delighted when he leaves the building because it'll just make everything seem a whole lot more and a whole lot easier, But I think he's still got a few years there, and by the looks of it, he's absolutely loving life in Liverpool. And I don't think he'll be looking for an out just yet.
Yeah.
So my back four in the right back slot, I'm going with Kieran Trippier.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the boy Kieran Trippier. I think his delivery from dead ball and from open play is unbelievable. I think he's a very good defender one-on-one. I think as you've seen at Newcastle, he's a leader. He's invariably involved in that England squad and in the team as well, so he's a really, really good player. I go with Trippier in there. In the left back slot, I've gone with Cancelo. Cancelo could have played on either side. He played a lot of his football recently for City on the left. If I had somebody that maybe I was a little happier with in the left back slot, I possibly would have gone with Cancelo on the right. But I'm happy with Trippier and Cancelo.
Yeah.
My two defenders are going to shock you. And this is a big show because what we've got to do is we got to make this call on how things are going right now. I can't make the call on what's gone on before. I can only make the call on what's going on now. So my two defenders right now, if I was picking two centre backs in the league, I pick Nathan Collins and Alessandro Martinez. I think the boy Collins has been outstanding since he's gone to Wolves. Really outstanding. Wolves have gone from playing in a back five to a back four. They've only really been able to do it because the boy Collins is so good, and he's been able to cover the position better. Do you know what I mean? Rather than playing with the 3 flat and then the 2 wing backs much higher. So we've gone for Collins, and I think Martinez, since he's come in, has been phenomenal for United.
Ted's in the comments.
He's been the Ted. He's been the biggest. He's been the biggest addition to the United squad for me. And Anthony's done well. Eriksen's done excellent. Malacia, they've all done very, very well. But Martinez for me is the standout at United. He's been the best player we've had this season, and I think he warrants a spot in there, if I'm honest. Yeah. I'm playing both sides. I'm playing 4-2-3-1. That's my preferred. That's my preferred lineup. Midfield, first name of the team sheet for me every week and twice on a Sunday, as our friend Greg says. The boy Rodri at Manchester City. He's different gravy altogether. He's unbelievable. He really, really is.
Mr. Consistency.
Mr. Consistency. When you go through games without people noticing you, and every week you're a 7, you're an 8, you're a 7, you're an 8, you're a 7, you're an 8. Every day, he goes through, doesn't do much. I think it's really, really good. What's going on here? We should have bought Collins off Stoke.
He said he should have bought Collins off Stoke. Fletcher was there at Stoke. Ted is in the comments as well, giving away his team. We haven't given away his team there. Ted, we're about to go through your team as well.
We might reveal yours, but maybe we've...
Yeah.
The 2 centre-backs are the same, ready?
Presume so. He matched centre-backs with Dazzler. That's what he's saying, yeah. Go ahead,
then. Me three across midfield. I think, obviously, Salah on the right. I know he's hit a little spot of maybe turbulence, let's call it, at the minute, after signing that new big deal. It's obviously the money is weighing him down slowly. He's a phenomenal footballer. On the left-hand side, Phil Foden, again, another super footballer. I love the way he glides across the turf with the ball at his feet and drops a shoulder here and there and stuff like that, And then I have Kevin De Bruyne in at the 10, little higher than he plays for City, but again, I think he can do the job. And then they are both behind one Erling Brandt Haaland. And again, I don't think anyone will be shocked to hear Haaland in there, because obviously the start of his City career has just been out of this world, So my North team is Alisson, Trippier, Collins, Martinez, Cancelo, Rodri, Thiago. Actually, I left out Thiago. Sorry. Thiago goes in next to Rodri, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, and Haaland.
Nice. I'll give you Greg's first then. Greg from our WhatsApp group. Greg went with Ederson. He went with Walker, Diaz, Martinez, and Cancelo. Rodri, he agreed with you in there. He went with Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo. Bernardo Silva. And then up front, ASM, I presume, was Alan Saint-Maximin. Haaland through the middle and Luis Diaz on the left. So that was Greg's team.
He's playing 2 left-sided players, is he?
I think so, yeah.
Greg, we need balance in this team, pal. Can't be going with two left-sided attackers.
Abandon balance and go with goals.
Is he a closet City fan, our mate Greg? Because there's an awful lot of City players in there, isn't there? Or was that just a little snipe at you boys?
I don't know. When I was going through it, what I did actually? The way I did it as well is I looked at some of the fantasy football ratings as well to try and see who was doing well in fantasy football. To put in I would say the lesser known ones. Because I was trying to avoid the melee of Liverpool and City up north and United, and maybe sneak in a few other players. It is a tough one. Ted's one. Ted went with Ederson at the back as well, and then he went with Walker, Collins, Martinez, and Cancelo.
So he's 3 the same back 4 as me.
Yeah, and then he went with Rodri,
4,
Kevin De Bruyne,
5,
Maddison, Diaz, Haaland, and I think he went with Alan Saint-Maximin as well. Interesting.
I think we've about 5 or 6 of the same players there. Ted, it wasn't too bad, pal. We did all right there.
There's
Morris.
There's Morris's. He went with Alisson, Robertson, Van Dijk, Diaz, Cancelo, Rodri, Thiago, Salah, De Bruyne, Gundogan, great shout, and Haaland.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many bad footballers in there, really, is there?
No, not at all. So I will give you my one then. I did it all nicely up. I won't hide it from you. I did it up like, we're so professional here
Oh,
and
look at
stuff like
this.
that. Now I went with Jose Sa in goals.
Right.
I went with. I'll go full screen on it because my eyes aren't what they used to
Yeah,
be.
my eyes
And
aren't
then we go
even
back to
great
the
either.
comments. And then I went with Cancelo, Diaz, Bourne, and Malacia. I told you that you prefaced some of this in the previous
Right.
conversations.
Yeah.
I went with Rodri, De Bruyne, and Neves.
Okay.
I went with Rashford on the right, just to get Diaz in on the left. But I think Rashford, I know he's injured now, but I think his form has been decent.
It's
And
been
Haaland, of
better, all right,
course,
absolutely.
up front. But I think with De Bruyne there, Neves, especially from a dead ball, Rodri holding, Diaz, Rashford, and Haaland, some amount of goals in that front line.
Absolutely.
So that's why I went, and I think there's a nice balance to it as well because I tried to bring in some guys in there. I think Malacia, I think he's been excellent and under a lot of pressure and came in under a lot of criticism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he's done really, really well, even in that, and stepping up into a club the size of United as well. He's embraced and he's been one of those real good ones. And I just put Bourne in there because I was just thinking, do you know what the clinching factor was there? The number that he did on Salah when we played them. It was just
He was very good in fairness to
unbelievable.
him.
He was incredible in that game.
If you look at a guy built like Dan Bourne, he's built in that Harry Maguire mode, that big, awkward mode. But when you see him play football, he doesn't necessarily play football the way a guy of his size should. Like he's not bothered by guys trying to knock the ball past him and go around him. Like he's got a bit about him. He can keep himself in good positions. He's quick. He's good with his feet. I like the boy Bourne, I gotta say. I think Newcastle were very, very clever there. Obviously, he's a local boy as well, which helps bring him back into the squad and stuff like that. It's a great idea,
Yeah, and I have to say, I thought my picks were fair as well because literally I only have one Liverpool player in the whole team, so it's pretty good. Mark's in the comments here.
What have I got? I've got two. That's not too bad either,
Mark, Ederson in goal, and ASM, I told you he loves Alan Saint-Maximin.
Alan Saint-Maximin.
Trouble in the comments here. The Chelsea roar has entered the building. Bowley has created some great topics of discussion. Hey, absolutely, he arms us every week. It's great. And in fairness, we didn't take we didn't take the blunt view that Klopp sort of dismissed it out of hand. We actually like the idea. It's just a question of where you fit it in. If there's somewhere to fit it in, it probably has a bit of legs on it and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
he's coming in. Hilarious. An Arsenal fan slagging an American owner. They seem quite happy these days.
Shots fired.
Oh, I tell you, that shot across the bow there in the comments tonight. Not too bad.
Yeah,
let's get on.
North London, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
North and the west of London, I'll tell you.
The blood is boiling blue. Let's get into our southern teams then. Us being southerners here, we know all about this north-south divide here, living in Ireland.
I think my southern team is really gonna scare you.
I think mine will scare you more. Scare you more. I've gone way out.
I'm a bit out there as well now. There's no point in me lying.
Morris is back in here. This little battle's about to kick off. Yanks out.
Yeah, just not in front of the camera, lads.
Right.
You won't be surprised who my goalkeeper is. He's a guy I talk about very, very regularly on these shows. A man who I think won't be at his team much longer, if I'm honest. I think he may end up in West London playing for a team in a blue jersey. My goalkeeper is Robert Sanchez at Brighton.
Interesting.
My back four kicks off with Reece James at right back. I think he's phenomenal. I really, really do.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say he's one of my favourite players outside of United. I really like the kid. I think he's a great defender. I think he puts an awful lot in shift-wise week to week. I think he had
great balance.
Yeah, he really does.
As an athlete and in his game. And he worked his socks off last night as well, actually.
Yeah, super fan of him. In the left back position, You won't be surprised to know I've gone for Sideshow Bob Mark Cucurella. Again, if he'd have been at Brighton, I'd have gone for him. So he's at Chelsea, I still got to go for him, you know. I think right now, I think Reece James and Mark Cucurella are the best balanced right and left back in the league. Because if we look at City, you know, whatever side Cancelo plays on, you tick a box. But the other side always seems like it's a little bit, the level is a bit lower, you know. I think at Liverpool, neither of the two fullbacks are having a great time at the minute. Obviously, Robertson's injured. I think Trent is getting caught out quite a lot. I think the two boys at United are doing okay.
Yeah.
Two boys at United are doing all right, but they haven't done it for a prolonged period of time yet, so you can't kind of put them into the shake-up and stuff like that. I think James and Cucurella are probably the best right and left back pairing in the league right now.
Yeah. It's a good show.
Right now, contentious decisions. My two centre backs. My first one shouldn't be a shock because I mention him pretty much every single week on this podcast, and it's the boy Joachim Andersen that plays for Crystal Palace. He's phenomenal. He really is. He's athletic. He reads the game well. He's a leader. He's got some pace about him. He passes the ball really, really well out of defence, short and long range passes. I thought Fulham did well to get him. Palace has done a serious job to get him. Again, I don't see him being at Palace much longer, you know, because I think there's an awful lot of teams are going to look at a guy like that and go, he could elevate us to the next level. And alongside him, a guy that I talk about quite regularly. He's probably not on everybody's list of defenders, but the boy Mohammed Salah at Southampton is
interesting,
unbelievable, and has been for a number of years at Southampton. I think they paid about 12 to 15 million for this lad. He came in from Spain, and he's been outrageously good for them. In 90% of the game he's played. Anytime they have one of those performances where, you know, they beat a City 1-0 or they beat a United or they beat a Chelsea, the boy Salah was up at 8 or 9 all the time. He's quick. He reads the game well. You know, he doesn't get very, very flustered. I think he's a super, super player, I have to say. And I'm shocked that nobody's tried to take a bite out of him. I think he's he's top drawer.
Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah, so into midfield, again, I've gone with two in midfield. I've gone with a guy who I think at times suffers because he's an English player. And I think he suffers because, you know, we always have this kind of slanted view that English players are overhyped. I personally don't think this guy is overhyped. I think he's underhyped at times. I think he's a phenomenal footballer. I'm very sad that he's now not wearing a green jersey. But I think he's right out of the top drawer, or Rice out of the top drawer. So that's Declan Rice.
You being an Irishman, how very dare you?
You can't take it away from the kid.
I won't argue with you now.
No, he's right up there. My second Brighton player comes in midfield. It's the boy Caicedo. Again, you know, he came in. He's an Ecuadorian international. He was highly touted as a target for United. Obviously, there was a link there with Antonio Valencia, and Valencia put them onto him and said, listen, this kid is top of the pops. You need to go and get him while he's going cheap. We didn't punt on him, and now it looks like there's a lot of footballers, or now it looks like there's a lot of clubs, Liverpool included, United, Arsenal, Chelsea, who will all want a piece of this kid if they can get it from Brighton, you know.
Eno's back on the Chelsea roar. Blame O'Neill. Great shout on Rice. Absolutely. I think Rice would be in most people's teams. I was actually going to include Conchado, but you know why I didn't include him? Because I knew he'd be in your team, so I just wanted something.
You knew he'd get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew. I even seen him last night in the fantasy ratings, and I said, Darren will be all over him tomorrow night. When you see, absolutely. Great player.
So my three behind the striker, I've gone with Bukayo Saka. I know he's maybe hasn't hit the heights yet this season, or when I say hit the heights, I think the performance has been good. He just hasn't racked up the numbers yet, be it goals and assists. But I think his general all-round play is pretty good, and I think when he gets the ball, you know, the issue now probably is when he gets it, there's so much of expected of him. and invariably one or two players go and team him up. Now that means he shifts the ball inside to an Odegaard, or he shifts it left to a Martinelli. But he's doing an awful lot of work by freeing those guys up because of the space he's creating with his runs and with how dangerous he is. So I go with Saka on the opposite side, and again another guy who's had a slow start to the season, but a guy I'm a huge fan of, and that's Heung-min Son. He has been slow to get off the mark, but I don't think he can have a Southern team without Son in it, if I'm honest. I think he's right out.
I think you can.
I think he's right out of the top drawer, if I'm honest. My next pick will be a shock to some people, and when I pick this player, I suppose I'm picking him in a position that he doesn't always play, but I think he plays the position quite well, behind my striker.
You're the coach. You can play him wherever you want.
Yeah, so Saka's gonna play on the right. Son is gonna play on the left, and in the 10 position behind my striker is Raheem Sterling. I think he's bedded in really well at Chelsea. I don't necessarily think he has anything to prove to himself, but I think there's a lot of people that have the eye on him now, and they're kind of thinking, you know what? He was at Liverpool, they moved him to City, he's done well at City, they've moved him somewhere else. And I think the guy just wants to keep saying, you know what, I'm still here and I'm still this good, and I'm still gonna bang these goals in, I'm still gonna put these performances in and create these assists and stuff. So I've gone with Saka, Sterling, and Son, and then up front.
That love him before you get up front, that love him for your picks is about to be turned up another notch. Once Eno heard you're putting Sterling in there, he'll be delighted.
Well, I've got Sterling in there, and then I've got Sterling in behind Harry Kane, because Harry's the dog's bollocks, really. You know, and anyone that doesn't rate Harry Kane is just, you know, you're fucking miles off. The guy is unbelievable. Not only is he a goal scoring machine, but as an all round footballer, you know, the way he's now dropping into those positions in the 10 to create a little bit of space in behind for his wingers and stuff like that. He's a clever footballer. He can pass the ball, he can head it, he can score. He's unreal. So my Southern team is Sanchez, James, Salisu, Anderson, Cucurella, Rice, Caicedo, Saka, Sterling, Son, and Harry Kane.
Interesting. You dipped well into the bag there now tonight for that one. Absolutely. Some interesting ones in there, all right.
Thank you.
I'll give you Greg's. Ian's in there again. He says Kane has to be in there. Absolutely. Mr. Consistency. Yeah. Regardless of whether we like him or not. Yeah. Greg's Southern team starts out with Ramsdale in goals. He has Reece James in there and Zinchenko on the other side. Zinchenko was the other one I was going to mention when you were talking about right and left backs. He's in the conversation as well. He's bedded in nicely at Arsenal and stuff like that.
He is, but there's no balance on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. Like, they've played the boy Ben White, who's a centre back, and he's looked like a centre back playing at right back.
Yeah. Hence, we'll get into the conversation about the English squad that was announced, and he's not in it. And there's a couple of guys in there that would shock you being in there. In his centre backs, he has in there Romero of Spurs, who's been really, really good, and of course the standout at Arsenal, Saliba, who's had a good start to the season as well. His midfield, he has a midfield three. Rice, of course, is in there. No shock on that one. Hallberg in the middle. And Odegaard, who's had a reasonable start season. He's dropped off the last couple of games, but he's pretty good at the start. And then up front, he went with, on the wide positions, he went with Saka. He agreed with you on that. And Martinelli on the other side, and Kane up front. So that was Greg's one. Don't forget as well, Ted and Greg, check out their channels, Retrotainment, where they review movies and stuff like that, and do recasts and stuff like that. And also Greg has a horror channel as well called On the Slab. Check that out, where he's producing horror content every week as well.
Absolutely.
So well worth a check out. The southern one for Ted, who also went with Ramsdale and also went with Reece James, and agreed with you with Cucurella on the other side. And had Saliba and I think it's Gabriel in there. Yeah, Saliba and Gabriel. Zinchenko we had just sitting in the defensive role, the Fabinho role, if you like, in front of them.
Right.
Then he went with three. He went with three, and then two was three are Kulusevski, Odegaard, and Martinelli. And then up front he had Kane and Mitrovic. So that was his one.
Good.
I'm going to track back up here in the comments, and I'm going to get Morris's southern one.
I don't think he gave us a
Morris's,
southern one, did he?
he did, yeah. He went in with Ramsdale. Then he went with Chilwell, Saliba, Silva, and James. Kante, Rice, Sterling, Son, Saka, and Kane. That's a nice. That's a nice ring to that team. Interesting. I'll give you my one now. My southern team, which I'm sure will raise a few eyebrows as well, no doubt. So I'll go full screen on this one for you, Darren, just for your eyes and mine. So I went with Sanchez and goals. I agreed with you on that one. James, Saliba. I went with Dunk at the back with Saliba and Zinchenko. Rice in midfield with Kulichevsky and Saka. I put my boy Ivan Toney in there. I had to put Ivan Toney in there, and Mitrovic and Kane up front. I couldn't leave Ivan Toney out. I think most people on the show know how big a fan I am of Ivan Toney.
You've three number 9s on oil. What way are we playing here?
I don't know. Play 4, 3, 15, whatever you want. I just had to. I was trying to fit in the guys that I wanted in there and stuff like that, you know. So, I don't know, to be honest. I just put them in there, but I thought it was kind of cool. These are the guys I think have been doing.
These
are
your boys.
Yeah, these are my boys. I talk about them every week on the show and stuff like that. But definitely Tony in there. Agreed with you. You had Sanchez and goals as well, didn't you?
I did.
And we're big fans of the boy Dunk as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was that. Eno is in. Hang on, Morris. Where am I? Kane has to be in. Morris first of all. Mount hasn't made it into any. Ian. Ian's changing his straight away to get Mount in there. No, he hasn't. Ian's come back with his one from the Chelsea Roar. Check out his channel as well. Make sure you subscribe and like all his content. Correct, Morris, nor mine. He said he's gone with Sanchez, James, Silva, Saliba, Cucurella. What a back four. Rice, Odegaard, Kovacic. I actually thought about Kovacic last night when I was putting my one together, and then he went with Sterling, Saka, and Kane. Yeah, nice. I did think of Kovacic all right. Mark's come in as well. No Welbeck. Don't know, I might put him on the bench, Mark.
Not go there, Mark. Let's not go there, pal.
Just for those good decoy runs.
Still in good form.
Absolutely. Let's see what Sky threw up, just to make it interesting. So Sky, their southern team, they went with Ramsdale, James, Romero, Thiago Silva, and Zinchenko. Not a million miles away. We've had a splatter of that throughout the picks. Odegaard, Rice, and Kante, and Saka, Kane, and Sterling. Nice balance to that one as well, actually. But yeah, most of those picks were in there anyway.
That has to be played as a 4-2-3-1. Because Odegaard doesn't play that deep. He plays in behind Kane, Rice and Kante in the middle, 2 defensive midfielders, and then the boys in the wings. It's not bad though.
Yeah,
I don't know if Kante gets in at the minute though, because he's really he's been off the beat for a little while, hasn't he?
And this was the northern one that had a few shocks in it, of course, that people were talking about. Ederson and goals. Again, not a bad shout. I mean, you can flip a coin on some of the goalkeepers. Trent, for me, definitely doesn't get in there on current form. Diaz is in there. Van Dijk, again, probably questionable on current form. I wouldn't have thought so. Cancelo definitely gets in.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't have a problem with that. De Bruyne, Rodri, and Fernandes.
Fernandes is the biggest punt of the three, but he's still not a massive punt. But he's not as big a punt as Trent. I don't think. But again, I probably wouldn't have him. Well, I didn't have him.
And then the front three that I know, 1/3 of it's going to upset you anyway. Salah, Haaland, and Ronaldo.
Who in fuck's name put Ronaldo in? He played about 7 minutes in the league for us,
Yeah, they were mainly the comments yesterday underneath this when I looked at them. The question was around Trent. There was a couple of questions around Bruno, but the main question was around Ronaldo getting in there.
Shocking. And let's not forget, they've got him on the left there. He doesn't run enough to play on a fucking wing either. Lazy swine.
Morris is not a huge fan of his captain as of yet. Odegaard wouldn't be able to hang with the big boys. And he came back again. He says, need to get Shelvey in there. Morris, stop.
Well, you know what? I am a little surprised that Scott McTominay didn't make it into Morris's? Because I know Morris is a big fan of the boy Scott McTominay.
I don't think he wants to promote him because they might be looking at buying him, so they want to dampen him down on the costs and stuff like that.
He's been all right so far for us this season now, Scott.
He has.
Been all right for us.
He's certainly been all right under Eric Ten Hag, that's for sure.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. It's amazing what can happen,
Yeah, and we predicted it a bit, didn't we? With the right coaching there and the right mentoring and the right formation and the right ideas and understanding your job and your position makes a huge difference to
he's got a lot of attributes. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is the thing that I find very, very difficult at times. And it's absolutely not just based around Scott McTominay. It's around a lot of things. When you're looking at a footballer, there's certain things they have to have. And if they're one or two things short, they're not going to be as good as they can be, Whereas if you can get guys that have all the attributes, you can adapt and you can use those attributes to create a better player. Like, McTominay's big. He's physical. He's got a good engine on him. He can pass. He moves well with the ball at his feet. We know he plays centre-back for Scotland, so his positional sense at times is good. I think sometimes the game bypasses him. With a coach that can technically give him a position to play and ask him to say, this is what I want you to do. Win it here, pass it here. Win it here, pass it here. Drop off. The biggest issue with Scott has been his football and intelligence. That's the part you can coach. The part you can't coach is how to be more physical if you're not a physical player. How to get up and down box to box. That sometimes doesn't work for guys. And that's where, when you're looking at guys, what can he do? Where are his limitations? And that's probably why sometimes, certainly I know I see things differently than other people. And it's definitely because I see what they could be with the right kind of coaching. But that's my job.
Yeah.
Like, I look at a 6-7-year-old kid and I go, okay, they're not very good right now, but they're athletic. They listen really, really well. They're willing to work very, very hard.
Coachable,
right? Yeah. Whereas there's other little kids
to take it in.
Other little kids, and they're the most talented kids in the world, but they know they're talented. And they get that chip on their shoulder where I'm too good to listen, and all of a sudden they put that glass ceiling on their head, And I tell
kids, very hard as a coach to break down that wall as well.
I tell all my kids on a daily basis, I want, do I want to, and I use this kind of analogy, I don't want a good kid. I want a kid that's willing to grow, because they'll outbeat the kid that's good every day, and that's what I think we've got to be looking at for footballers. And you see with the way teams like, Brentford and stuff like that, when they're signing players, they're not signing players based on he's the biggest player, he's the best player in the position. It's attributes and qualities that add to a team effort, you know what I mean? And they make signings and people go, "Ooh, don't know about that one." And then when you see them in the unit, you go, "Wow, look at that! That's how it works." It's great.
Yeah. Back in the comments, Diaz and Sancho for me ahead of R7 and Salah. We'll be talking about Sancho shortly when we have a look at this England squad. Mark's back. I have Diaz there for Ronaldo. Yeah, absolutely. Morris back in again. I am a fan for sure. He is an absolute workhorse. He absolutely is a workhorse.
Yeah.
Ian back again. Spot on, Dazzler. How coachable a player is far more valuable than a player that has natural ability but hasn't got the willpower to open the ears and take criticism. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's get into this England squad. Sure to create a little bit of debate.
Mental.
But some craziness about it, all right. I don't think we need to talk about the goalkeeping, really, do we? Because obviously with Pickford out injured, I think Pickford's going to be on the plane anyway, assuming he's fit and healthy.
The only thing I will say is, if I look at the goalkeeping list, who does Pickford get in ahead of for you right now? That's so the fact that
he's definitely, I definitely have him in there. Look, everyone knows my disdain there anyway. I definitely have him in there if I'm talking about form and stuff like that and what he brings. I definitely have him in there before Dean Henderson.
Would you?
Yeah. Now,
okay,
not necessarily. If you look at the other two, the likes of Pope and Ramsdale, I think the problem with the English goalkeeping situation at the moment is, they're all decent. without one of them being like if you've got the 4 goalkeepers there, the 4 goalkeepers are all decent in a slightly different way and stuff like that. But you don't
Yeah.
have an Ederson or an Allison that stands above those 4.
No, but again, like I think they're 4 good keepers, but I got to be
Yeah.
honest. I think Pickford's the worst of the 4 for me. You know, I none of them are worse than Pickford. No, I don't think so, Morris. I don't think so either. I have to be honest. Depending how long he's injured for, I think he could be in trouble. I think timing is everything. I think all 3 of those lads, Henderson, Pope, and Ramsdale, are going to play every single game between now and the World Cup, provided they're fit. And I think their form could dictate, the Pickford not getting a spot, which I think is a massive show, but I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think the problem you have is with Southgate in charge and stuff like that. He's he reverts the type all the time, regardless of the situation. And we'll see that when we go into the defenders here, you'll see it. It's so blatant, like
that's
what I mean.
That's
so
a huge
blatant.
issue, actually. That's a huge. It's very much the tried and tested.
Yeah, and that's where I would see it going. And unfortunately, if it goes that way, who do you think drops off? Is it Henderson that drops off? Assuming Pickford will go back in and he reverts to norm. It's probably Henderson, is it?
Probably Henderson. But again, like I wouldn't like to be making that call on any of them, because I think if I've got to be honest, if one of those is left out for Henderson, they should feel extremely aggrieved. Extremely aggrieved. They really should.
Yeah, Ian, first of all, Ian on the Chelsea Raw, Pickford doesn't make it ahead of them for me, if I'm honest. I think if he's fit and he's back, he's a shoe-in. I think he's just... I don't agree with it. But I just when you're talking about how he's going to revert, what Southgate's like. He goes back to I wouldn't even say the reliables, but I mean...
No.
Pickford and Maguire will be in the plane. Southgate to die on his own hill, and it will be glorious. Drink it in from Morris. Ian back in the comments again. It's the English way though. Always the old favourites. Always, yeah, absolutely. Ian. It's a fear of going out there and doing something different, isn't it? Even like for us looking from the outside in, if Pope started for England in the World Cup, or Ramsdale started for England in the World Cup, or Henderson, we wouldn't see it as a shock. We wouldn't see it as a shock at all. And a matter of fact, sometimes with Pickford's form, it should have happened a long time ago.
As you say, we would see it as a shock that Southgate picked them. Not that they were in the conversation, but because.
But I mean, in our own minds, we would see them as being a capable deputy.
Let's just play devil's advocate here. Let's say Pickford's injured for the World Cup, and you have Henderson, Pope, and Ramsdale. Who do you start with?
Pope all day.
Okay.
Pope all day, because I think in the heated battle and emotion of a World Cup situation, I think Ramsdale is a bit too emotional. I love him as a goalkeeper. I think he's excellent, but I think he gets caught up in the emotion of the moment at times. Henderson, I'm not too sure. I mean, the attributes are there. There's no doubt about it. But I think for me, in terms of Mr. Cool, Calm and Collected, Nick Pope is the guy for me in those 3.
Okay.
That would be my call. And I think when you're going to a World Cup, especially at the back, you need someone who just has that calm and influence. That influence that likes of, that Alisson brings sometimes at Liverpool, or Ederson brings at City, and that kind of thing. Even De Gea at times at Man United brings that, that reassurance. I think Pope would bring that reassurance to England. Ian is coming in. He says he's going with Pope as well, and he also says Henderson has the highest ceiling. But right now, Pope, I think, you're right. I think so. I just think Henderson to come on for the penalties.
He saved a couple already this season, hasn't
he? He has, yeah. But that's it. Who would it be for you? Are you agreeing you going with Pope there, or what way would you?
No, we'd be going with Ramsdale.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah, Ramsdale would be my choice of the 4 keepers. I just think I think they'll all make, the average save. But I just think when you need something really, really special, when it's a quarter-final, a semi-final, a final, and somebody puts one into a postage stamp, I just think Ramsdale gets to a little more than the other two boys. I just think he's a little more athletic. I just think he reads the game a little bit better. I completely agree with what you say from an emotional point of view, but I also think at times I do want emotion, and I want a guy that's willing to go out and fucking die on that pitch for me. And, Pope is a smashing goalkeeper. He's a super goalkeeper, but he's very introverted. I as a goalkeeper wasn't like that. I'm extremely extroverted.
Yeah.
So
you
I
want
would
to tear your back line asunder at times, yeah. You want to be more vocal and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I would warm more to a keeper that was a little more vocal than a guy that just made stops and,
Yeah, no, makes sense.
That's all. But
it's just, what I've seen at times? I've seen at times when Ramsdale has made mistakes, or not even his mistakes, but let Arsenal down, say. It's been the times when the emotion has ratcheted up in the matches, and it has sometimes got to him. And when you've seen, some of those mistakes where you've seen goals against him where he's made simple goalkeeping mistakes and given away goals, tends to be the time when he's been the most hilarious at the back and he's absolutely turning the notch up, And that's the only reason I'm going for it there. Normally at the back, I like my goalkeeper to be vocal and command his area and stuff like that. But I don't like sometimes when a goalkeeper goes the way he goes and suddenly does hysteria in the back four because of his lambasting or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I like that little bit of calmness in there. But that again is it's horses for courses. Listen, I wouldn't be upset with either. No. Let's get into the defenders here, which is very interesting. Morris is saying before we get into defenders, he's saying Ramsdale, in my opinion, is becoming overconfident. I suppose there's two arguments to that. I mean, he's starting. You have a reasonable partnership there at the back now, Morris, with Gabriel and Saliba. So maybe some of it's coming from that now that he has two boys in front of him now that he has a little bit more confidence in.
I still, and I know I've said it, and not a lot of people agree with me. I think the biggest problem with this Arsenal team is that partnership. I've no idea why it's not Ben White and Saliba. I really don't. I don't rate the boy Gabriel as highly as I rate either White or Saliba. And I think Arsenal are crying out for a right back, the boy Tomiyasu, to balance off against a Tierney and a Zinchenko on the other side. I don't. Yep. I know they're flavour of the month at the minute, Gabriel and Saliba, but I'd be shocked if it's not White and Saliba come Christmas.
Yeah. Interesting. And speaking of Ben White, we're going to look at defenders now.
Yeah.
So in defenders there, you've got Trent, Chilwell, Connor Cody, Eric Dyer, Mark Gahey, Reece James, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Tomori, who I'm delighted was included, Trippier, and Kyle Walker.
It's the biggest collection of rubbish removal I've seen since Dublin City Council did their fucking roads. Like, that's absolute horseshit with what they have. It's dreadful.
Right, so here let's put you on the spot here a little bit then. Who are you taking out of that list, and who would you like to see go in? I mean, I presume you'd be an advocate for Ben White being in there somewhere, yeah?
Absolutely. I got to be honest, I don't like the boy Eric Dyer at all. I don't think he's a defensive midfielder. I don't think he's a centre back. I don't know what he is, but Eric Dyer shouldn't be in there at all for my money. Again, it's only mine.
The fridge.
Yeah, Harry Maguire, get out. See you later. Good luck.
Yeah.
Shaw
staying?
No. Shaw be absolutely shut the door. 100% shut the door. And I'd probably take another right back out just because of the way the numbers are. Now, I know, obviously, when you're looking at that there, Kyle Walker's either been lined up to play as the right side at centre back of a three.
Yeah.
So I'd probably keep Walker, Trippier, and Reece James, and I'd probably take Trent out at the minute. I'd take Trent.
Definitely.
I'd take Shaw. I'd take Dyer, and I would take Maguire.
Hmm.
I'd take those 4 out.
Okay.
So that's a right back, a left back, and 2 centre backs.
Okay. Interesting.
If I picked it's only mine. If I picked my England back 4 right now, I'd pick Reece James at right back.
Yeah.
I'd pick Mark Gahey and Fikayo Tomori as the 2 centre backs.
Yeah, Tomori's probably their best centre back at the moment, actually, based on form.
By an absolute country mile.
Yeah.
By a country mile. And I probably play Ben Chilwell on the left. I'd go Chilwell and Reece James as the wing backs, or as the full backs, and I'd go with Tomori and Mark Gahey. It would be a flip of a coin between Stones and Gahey, but I'd go for Gahey.
Yeah, Ian's back in the comments. James can also play in the 3, so that makes sense, Dazzler. Yeah,
he's just not as good in the 3 though, because you missed that. You missed that push up the pitch. You missed that attacking threat, which is why I think you won't see too much of him playing there for Chelsea either.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the interesting thing as well is sometimes they pick players as well. It's a weird one, the England conundrum, especially for Southgate. He has such an abundance of riches, and yet he tends to play players that aren't even playing for their club. You know what I mean? And I just think sometimes, okay, if you have a real exceptional talent, but then a real exceptional talent would be playing for his club. But it's just it's just so weird. Like, and we'll talk about it. Like, we went to midfield here, and you look at it, and there's such. You can even see when you look at this slide, you can see the imbalance already. It's clear to everyone how imbalanced this is. Like,
I'm a huge fan of the boy Calvin Phillips. Hasn't kicked the ball this season.
Yeah,
hasn't kicked the ball. He's played about.
So if you're an international coach, is he in your team? We know how good he was. He was brilliant in the Euros.
He needs games at City before, I'm certainly playing Declan Rice, Ward-Prowse and Jude Bellingham ahead of him. Yeah. And I got to be honest, and this is a big show. I probably have Harvey Elliott in there ahead of Mount and Calvin Phillips.
That's definitely not going to happen. That's definitely Ian's back straight out of Covent, Dazzler. You're back 4.
That's right. They're all Chelsea boys, or we're Chelsea boys. Yeah, Tomori and Gahey, and I mean, look at what they could have there, and that's something we obviously spoke about, and that's something that Bowley has now spotted as well. That the likes of, they could have a Reece James, they could have a Ben Chilwell, and they could have a Gahey and a Tomori, provided they hadn't already been shown the door by previous regimes.
Shelby might be on the plane, all right. Won't be that plane though, Morris.
Mark's
back in the comments. He says, I don't agree with Dazzler. I would go with Neville, Adams, Southgate, Pearce. That's my back 4. You better pray Mark it doesn't go to penalties.
Jesus, can you imagine it?
Oh, good Lord. Imagine how many Pizza Hut ads there would be after that.
I'm telling you.
Ian was back again. Southgate wouldn't have a clue how to put a club squad together. Talk about imbalance. 12 defenders and 5 midfielders. When you want to have a look at lads 2 months out from a World Cup, huh?
Can someone explain Jack Grealish to me?
Did you see his stats from the other night? All Mexican hats, all zeros, all zeros. And I'm not talking the zeros that were on the transfer fee. I'm talking the in-game zeros.
Absolutely dreadful, like proper dog shit dreadful, and he still gets a spin.
Let's get into it. It's hard to talk about the midfield as well because there's so little of them, because we agree with at least 3, and then the other 2 are kind of, Mason, obviously he can step up and he can greatly improve and stuff like that might seal his place. Calvin obviously needs game time, and obviously they've so many other options there, Let's talk about the forwards, because the forwards is quite contentious as well. Of course, we spoke earlier in the show, Ivan Toney, delighted to have him in there. I think it's only I don't see him going though, do you?
I tell you what, I reckon it's a toss-up between him and Abraham, because I don't think he brings both of them, but I think he's having a look at both of them and saying, whichever one of these 2 really, really impresses me, I'll take as backup to Kane.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the players, Sterling, Bowen, Foden, Grealish, and Saka are all wide players. So it gives you 3 out-and-out number 9s, you know?
Yeah, Morris is here. Picks for how far England will go in the World Cup. Last 16 max for me. I think they'll probably go further, Morris. Do you know what it is? Because it's the staunchness of the defending. And the the sneaking through of games, 1-0s or whatever it is and stuff like that. It's nearly the anti-football, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Ian's back again as well. Nobody can. He has nice hair though. Up front. So if it's a toss up between Tammy and Ivan Toney, who are you picking if you're sitting in the seat?
So I think Toney is more mobile than Abraham. I think he's a little bit quicker. I think he gives you the option of going in behind. Tammy doesn't necessarily give you that. He's that little bit bigger. He's obviously a little bit better in the air. Yeah. But his mobility certainly isn't up there with Toney's for me.
Yeah.
I love mobility. I want guys that can get around the pitch, that can put shifts in. So for me, I probably go Toney over Abraham.
Okay. Interesting. What did you make of? I mean, Jared Bowen's in there. I think people who listen to the show know we're big fans of Jared Bowen as well.
Absolutely.
What you're thinking on the exclusion of Sancho? Do you think he's do you think looking at this squad, the players that are out there, obviously Rashford is injured and Sancho isn't in there. Do you think these are 2 guys he's made his mind up on already and are probably going to go so he doesn't need to look at them? Or do you think it's 2 guys who are kind of questionable?
No, I think he'd be silly to have given up on the 2 lads right now because obviously they're starting to show signs of life, you know, and I think he's probably spoken to them and I think he's probably said, you're on the right track. I need a little bit more, but if you give me a little bit more, you won't be far away. I mean, here's the problem. Do you take either of them ahead of Bowen? Not for me, right?
Okay,
do we take either of them ahead of Foden? Again, not for me. Do I take either of them ahead of Saka? Not for me. Do I take either of them ahead of Sterling? Not for me. So that basically leaves Grealish and Abraham, if you're talking the 2 of the boys out. Now, I could see them taking the spots held by Abraham and Grealish. You know? But then you're only going in with 1 9, or sorry, with 2 9s really, because Rashford's again not an out-and-out 9. You're probably saying Sancho takes Grealish's spot on the left and Rashford takes Abraham's spot through the middle, but he can also play on the wings. That's where I would go with it, you know, if I was picking. But I imagine he told them there's still an opportunity, keep the head down, keep going, and you know, you might not be very far away.
Yeah. Ian's back in. Tommy is a target man, good hold up play, but isn't as well versed with his head, and he should be for a 6'5" guy.
Yeah.
Very frustrating at times, and needs more aggression in his game as a centre forward. Yeah. Couldn't disagree with any of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grealish is a real conundrum, isn't he? Like you can see, he's gonna bring him, isn't he? He's gonna bring him. It's just
if he does bring him, the only reason he brings him is he's a maverick, and you just don't know what he can do, and he adds that something special. At times, he can come up with moments, and if you're 1-1 with Croatia in the bleeding quarterfinals, and you need a goal, you might bring on a Jack Grealish that he can create something, that he can go past someone, put a ball into an area. That's what you get out of Jack Grealish. You might not get 90 minutes of up and down, but you'll get moments of quality and you get glimpses of what that kid can do. And
it's been few and far though, hasn't it?
It has.
Post Villa.
Yeah, we know at times, you know, certainly at Villa, and Villa are nowhere near as good a football team as Man City. At times at Villa, the kid was unplayable. I think the big issue
must be so frustrating for Pep.
It's got to be frustrating for Grealish as well, though, because don't forget, I mean, he was able to build up a rhythm of Villa. He was able to play 10 games on the bounce. Guys looked at him and gave him the ball and let him go and do it. At City, if he gets the ball and doesn't do it, they don't give it to him. They turn the opposite direction. And he doesn't necessarily play in a mould where with City, it should be tack, tack, tack with the ball. Whereas at Villa, he was given it and he was allowed roam and he was allowed go by guys and drop a shoulder and come inside. And it's a very different style of football. He's not a great fit at Manchester City.
Yeah, at Villa, he was like Kane at Spurs. He's the go-to guy. He was the go-to guy at Villa. You know what I mean? When people picked up the ball, they looked up. They were looking for Jack Grealish. But at Man City, he's just like he's part of a squad, really. You know, he doesn't really stick out. The only thing that sticks out is the transfer fee and I presume the wages and stuff like that. But so far, it's been very poor from a guy who we know who has bags of talent, but very, very poor, very, very poor. Morris is saying he had no competition at Villa. Absolutely. Good show. Yeah. So that's our look at the England squad. Some interesting picks from Gareth Southgate. Be interesting to see over the next two games how it pans out and who he picks. But certainly a number of guys being left out there that won't be too happy, especially when they see the inclusion of what has replaced them. Won't sit with them well. As always, it's been a pleasure having all you guys on the show tonight. If you want to contact the show, it's the Upper Tier Podcast at gmail.com. You'll find us out there, the Upper Tier. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok on a daily basis out there. If you ever want to come on the show, of course, just hit us up and let us know. This has been your Thursday Tier Talk. We will be back on Monday with the Monday mashup. I don't think we have any previews or match reactions to the Liverpool game as well, so there won't be much Shankly sessions going on. We'd like to thank everyone in the comments. As always, hit up Morris's channel, Cheap Heat Productions Podcast. Brilliant. Doing some great interviews out there and stuff like that. No doubt tomorrow we'll probably have a fantasy chancer going up for the weekend. Also check out Ian's channel, the Chelsea Roar there, dropping Chelsea content there on a weekly basis as well. As I said earlier, Ted for retrotainment and retrotainment recasts. If movies is your thing, and especially retro movies, check the boys out. Also check out Ted. It's not Ted, sorry. God, it's after slipping my mind now. On the Slab, the horror show. Check that out with Greg. Sorry. Just had a brain fart there, basically. Greg with On the Slab, who's doing the horror shows on a weekly basis as well. Lots of channels out there, lots of great content if that's your thing. And I think tomorrow night I might be doing a Dynamo's Dozen with Ian. Where we'll be looking at some of the latest pro wrestling news out there and stuff like that. No doubt we'll be talking about CM Punk and the Young Bucks and stuff like that and all. But for now, for myself, Niall Hogan, your host, my co-host Darren, who seems to have disappeared. Wi-Fi is a killer these days. We will talk to you again real soon. As always, before you go, subscribe to the channel, hit a like on the video on your way out. It means the world to us. Cheers.